Welcome to Electrified. It's your host, Dylan Loomis. So, Elon dropped a big one today saying congrats to the AI chip design team on taping out AI5, AI6, Dojo 3, and other exciting chips are in the works. And Elon went as far as sharing an image of what appears to be the actual AI5 design. Now, we will come back to this shortly, but you have the main processor right in the middle, and then on either side, you have 6 dies for memory. 6 over here for 12 total. And this central SoC or system on chip and these 12 memory dies are all packaged together on this substrate that you see that has some wording on it. And as you might guess, there's a lot to unpack here because this is a pretty big departure from what we've seen with AI4. But first, Elon continued, "Thank you to Taiwan Semi and Samsung for your support in bringing this chip to production. It'll be one of the most produced AI chips ever." And then Elon was asked, will this go into cars or the robots? To which Elon said, Optimus and our supercomputer clusters. AI4 is enough to achieve much better than human safety for FSD. So all along, the expectation has been that AI5 will of course go into the vehicles to make FSD superhuman-like from a safety perspective. But now with Tesla rewriting the compiler and the runtime and everything that we've covered, they're now very clearly pretty confident that AI4 is going to be more than enough for unsupervised. Which, yes, is another very strong anecdotal piece of evidence for all you Hardware 3 owners. I'm not saying I'm now guaranteeing that unsupervised will make its way to Hardware 3 vehicles, but I would postulate that Tesla solving for unsupervised comfortably on AI4 is a very encouraging sign that at some point we do see a version 14 or even a version 15 Lite that will make it to Hardware 3 vehicles and be close to unsupervised, if not all the way there. And I know plenty of people have already written off the possibility of Hardware 3 running unsupervised. I personally am not one of those people. Given what I'm seeing in the world of quantization and distillation and all of the efficiency gains that can be made on the software side, in my opinion, there's a non-0% chance that Tesla can make some magic happen with Hardware 3 when it comes to a light version of the true unsupervised model. Just remember, the good news is that Elon has already said he will take care of Hardware 3 owners, whatever that may look like. So in the more likely event that Hardware 3 cannot actually run an unsupervised model, Tesla has already committed to making that situation right when the time comes. But before we get into AI5 itself, I think it's important to call this out. Elon just said March 18th of this year, AI5 will punch far above its weight because the entire AI software stack is designed to make maximally effective use of every circuit. We co-signed our AI software and hardware. Bear in mind, AI5, while it can be used for training in data centers, is primarily optimized for AI edge compute in Optimus and robotaxi. There's still significant room for improvement. In the same half reticle and same process node, we think a single AI6 chip has the potential to match a dual system on chip AI5. So today we're just focusing on AI5, but I want to be clear, less than 1 month ago, Elon said AI5 would be going into cars, aka robotaxis. And there is a world where when this post was made, AI5 was actually already taped out, or at the very least, close to at that stage. And for purposes here, taped out just means that the design is done, it's locked, and it's actually been shipped to the fabs, aka Samsung and TSMC. So my point is, whether or not AI5 makes it into a Tesla vehicle is still very much fluid. I personally think they will ultimately make it into the cars. But for now, the new expectation should be that AI4 will be the chip in Tesla vehicles for the foreseeable future, which is a very strong indication that the Tesla team right now feels very confident about what it can do with these smaller models. And one more comment from Elon, this one was January 18th this year. AI4 by itself will achieve self-driving safety levels very far above human. AI5 will make the cars almost perfect and greatly enhance Optimus. AI6 will be for Optimus and data centers. AI7 and Dojo 3 will be space-based AI compute. So again, what Elon just said today would be a departure from the middle two bullet points. The way I'm reading this is that Tesla knows that Optimus Optimus is going to need AI5 and the processing power and the bandwidth improvements and so on. So right now, that is the focus of the AI5 program. Tesla knows Optimus needs it first and foremost. But if Samsung and TSMC can start production of AI5 and get that to higher volume to a level that materially exceeds the Optimus production, which I think is a very real possibility, from there, any excess chip capacity could find its way into the vehicles, if not into the data centers. And I have to say, I think it should have already been obvious that Tesla is expecting to solve unsupervised with AI4 because AI5 isn't expected until late next year. And obviously, Tesla is expecting to start scaling unsupervised much sooner than that. But who knows, maybe the market did need a little reassurance that AI4 will be enough for unsupervised. And now real quick, before we get into this chip design, just a few days ago, the FBI labeled a recent data breach a major incident and notified Congress about the cyber intrusion. Meaning, yes, the agency responsible for investigating cybercrime cannot keep its own system locked down. And Surfshark, the sponsor of this video, just added a new feature for when things like this happen much closer to home and impact you. And for those who don't pay close attention, I'll just tell you it's happening all the time. Surfshark One Plus now includes up to $1 million in identity theft coverage for US customers at no extra cost. So if your identity gets stolen, and again, the data suggests it's a matter of when, not if at this point, Surfshark will reimburse expenses like legal fees, document replacement, lost wages up to $5,000, and even mental health counseling. Plus, you get access to a licensed identity theft investigator who does all the heavy lifting of restoring your credit and records. And of course, the best part, this is on top of everything else that Surfshark is doing to prevent this from happening in the first place. Surfshark's alternative ID lets you create a completely separate name, email, and number for new signups so your real information never enters those databases. They also recently launched a content web blocker that lets you block entire categories of websites across all your family's devices, and you can lock it behind 2FA so only you control what gets through. And one account still covers unlimited devices, and Surfshark just completed another independent security audit with 0 critical vulnerabilities. So if you'd like to support the work I do here, you can go to surfshark.com/electrified or use code electrified at checkout to get 4 extra months of Surfshark VPN. Now, this image was making its rounds, and I think a lot of people are confused. It was comparing Tesla's AI4 PCB, the entire printed circuit board that has both of the AI4 SoCs, these little squares on the overall larger PCB. That image was mistakenly being compared directly to just one AI5 SoC that has a new memory packaging strategy, which was packaged together on this substrate, which looks like the frame right here. But the reason they shouldn't have been compared like this is because this AI5 is effectively one of these AI4s right here. So the easiest way to think about it is this image comparison is taking one of these AI4 SoCs and removing it from the overall printed circuit board and then blowing it up to make it bigger and then showing those changes from there about how AI5 is going to look. And so now we have people saying that, see, I told you AI5 is not going to have redundancy anymore. It's only going to be one AI5 die. But I'm just not confident that's the case. I think people are just reading way too far into things right now. So I definitely still think there's a world where Tesla's going to have 2 of these AI5 packages, I'm calling it, because it does have the SoC and the memory and the substrate all packaged together. And then Tesla will take 2 of those and actually place it on a larger PCB, printed circuit board, to have 2 of those AI5 chips, just like we saw with AI4, for redundancy in case one fails. Now, we don't have anything official on that right now. That is just my speculation. Today, Elon also said a single AI5 has around 5 times the useful compute of a dual SoC AI4, meaning one AI5 chip has 5 times the compute capacity of 2 AI4 SoCs. And I don't want to speculate too much here based on Elon's wording, so I'm just going to assume that this number will stay the same even if Tesla does move to a dual AI5 SoC for redundancy, meaning a dual SoC AI5 would still be around 5 times the useful compute compared to AI4. And that's because of my understanding of how Tesla handles redundancy. I'm pretty sure that each SoC has to be fully capable of running the FSD neural net in the event that one fails entirely, meaning the useful compute wouldn't change that much from having two because they're both running in parallel at the same time. Now, looking at AI5, hopefully you've all been watching each episode so you can stay up to date. Remember how I said I'd bring up CoWoS again, chip on wafer on substrate, which is an advanced packaging technique which Tesla plans to do in the Terafab, which is partially what we're seeing here. So this AI5 design has the memory integrated right next to the main processing SoC. And then again, all of those dies are packaged together on this outer substrate. And again, this entire thing is likely going to be placed on a bigger PCB in the future with another AI5 for redundancy. But this is a big departure from AI4 because of the integration between this memory and the main processing unit. Now, if you go back to AI4, you'll see that these SoCs, these individual dies, are separate from the actual memory, meaning the memory is placed on this larger PCB further away from the actual processor, which means the memory latency of AI5 should be far superior to AI4. These much shorter connections between the processor and the memory means that the neural nets are going to have much faster access to that data, which means improved bandwidth and efficiency and overall inference performance. And there's plenty of speculation out there about exactly what these memory dies are, but we do know that Elon and Tesla have said many times that AI5 will have 9 times the memory capacity of AI4. And we know that AI4 had 16 gigabytes of RAM. And so 9 times 16 would mean that AI5 might have 144 gigabytes of memory. And 144 total divided by the 12 memory dies on each AI5 would be 12 gigabytes per die. But here's where I think everybody's getting lost. So most people think that the tape out means this entire thing that you're seeing is now permanently locked, which is not true. Tape out typically just means that the transistor layout in the die itself is what's actually locked. So this middle portion right here, the SoC, the main processor, that will be locked with the tape out. But it steps after that, which is the advanced packaging that we talked about in recent videos, where Tesla will still have plenty of flexibility to pair this SoC with different amounts, types, and configurations of memory on the sides. Meaning, hypothetically, Tesla could use this specific overall AI5 packaging setup for Optimus and data centers, and then they could have a different version where the processor in the middle is exactly the same and the transistor layout is the same, but perhaps it would have less or a different type of memory on either side, because perhaps to get to unsupervised, they don't need this much memory. Whereas again, something like Optimus might. And so given that this is a memory on package setup for AI5, that memory part comes after the die is actually fabricated. And guys, if you've been following along, what has Elon been talking about time after time? How fast they plan to iterate through different design choices with the Terafab. Now, I'm not trying to say that's going to happen with AI5, but this is very clearly the direction Tesla wants to go. Ultimately, they want to be able to test different configurations and layouts and memory types to see what will actually be best for their specific use case, which again is one of the primary benefits of Tesla taking the time to do all of this, because they can eliminate everything that they do not absolutely need. But don't take it from me, late last year, Elon said it looks like we can bring the power consumption down closer to 250 watts, which is a big deal for Optimus. That talking about AI5. Important to note that AI5 is a specialized inference chip for the Tesla AI software. That said, it'll perform for our purposes much better than anything else available. We would not use any other chip in our cars and robots, even if they were free. And again, one of the bigger takeaways here is that AI5 has the memory integrated, whereas on AI4, the memory was external. And this means a lot of things in practice, but not the least of which is that whether it's a robotaxi or Optimus, it'll have much better context windows, meaning it can remember more of the scene at once. And not only that, but it can then access that data faster. Reaction times are better, the ability to understand very complex scenes is better, the overall efficiency is better, meaning the power draw is lower, and so on. And there was one line that Shinaka shared on X that I have to pass along. He said, "The chip that taped out this morning is not a product, it's the physical crystallization of 9 billion miles miles of learned physics into transistors optimized for the exact mathematical operations that physics requires. The software trained on the road. The silicon was designed from what the software learned, and the factory that'll mass produce it is being built in the same city where the cars that generated the training data roll off the line. The loop is closed. So even if AI5 doesn't actually make it to Tesla vehicles, the same thing here would hold true for Optimus. Everything that Tesla has developed, the neural nets, the world models, and the simulators, all of those learnings over a decade actually dictated what AI5 needs to be, and Tesla is now making exactly that. And now some people are saying, whoa, this is actually going to be made in Korea because of this KR2613, but if anything, it's likely that any samples and early production might be made in Korea, but then ultimately volume production will be happening in the States. And as Elon said late last year, slightly different versions of the AI5 chip will be made at TSMC and Samsung because they translate designs to physical form differently, but the goal is our AI software works identically. We will have samples and maybe a small number of units in 2026, but high volume production is only possible next year. AI6 will use the same fabs but achieve about 2 times performance, aiming for a fast follow to AI5, so hopefully mid-2028 for volume production of AI6. But I just wanted to clarify, volume production of AI5 will certainly be happening at TSMC and Samsung factories here in the US. For now, it's likely just the samples that will come from overseas. And just know, there are smart staff members on the Tech Power Up forum saying that the DRAM on this AI5 appeared to be LPDDR5X memory integrated into the package. On both sides, there are 2 rows of SK Hynix LPDDR5X memory modules, each with 3 modules, which would total 12 memory modules per AI5 chip. Now, those ones in particular would have 16 gigabytes per module, which would be 192 gigabytes instead of the 144 we talked about earlier. So it's not exactly clear exactly what Tesla is using here, but truly it does not matter. Tesla's obviously going to pick what it needs to get the job done. But sometimes I like to throw a little bait out there if any of you want to go fishing even deeper. And just for terminology before we move on, because I see some people getting it mixed up. So this AI4 image, this is the PCB, the printed circuit board that has the AI4 SoCs, 2 of them on the PCB. But then separately, the PCB is actually part of the bigger ECU, or the electronic control unit. So yes, the PCB is a large part of the ECU, but it's then the bigger ECU that actually gets mounted in the car and has the brackets and some cooling interfacing and some other parts. So technically a PCB, what you're looking at here, is not the same thing as an ECU. And one last thing on the memory before we move on. Late last year, Elon said the decision regarding using HBM high bandwidth memory has not been made yet. As the ratio of total parameters to active, meaning frequently used parameters, increases, the cost per unit of useful compute and compute per watt may favor relatively conventional RAM, meaning at the time Elon was thinking about not using high bandwidth memory. And that day he also said you can fit more total RAM on the board if you use normal memory, not high bandwidth memory, and it's super cheap. Maybe high bandwidth memory is still the right choice, but using HBM is not the slam dunk many people think it is. And as far as we can tell, it looks like Tesla has decided to use conventional industry standard DRAM instead of the more specific high bandwidth memory, which is likely to reduce cost and complexity and make manufacturing easier because those manufacturing processes are simpler than HBM, which means the packaging step will also be a bit easier. Now, of course, all of these decisions have trade-offs, but the overall point is that Tesla has the ability to make the decisions it needs, doing it vertically integrated. And right now, Tesla happens to have a job posting senior process engineer for dielectric deposition for the Terafab. The factory houses logic, memory, packaging, test, and lithography mask production under one roof, optimized for rapid iteration. But here it says you'll develop and own dielectric deposition processes across 3 distinct chip families: edge inference processors, space-hardened chips for orbital satellites, and high bandwidth memory. I'd commit those 3 categories to memory because they're going to come up often in the months and years ahead. And another posting up right now, senior process engineer for lithography photography for the terafab. I'm only sharing this because I've seen people out there make the argument that Tesla's only going to need DUV machines and not the newer, more capable but harder to get EUV machines. But clearly, Tesla is planning to use both, including EUV. Develop and qualify EUV and R5 resist processes, and qualify scanners EUV and DUV from installation through production readiness. So very clearly, Tesla will indeed need these EUV machines from ASML. But this AI5 tape out for Elon and Tesla is a massive milestone. The teams have been working on this diligently now for months. Elon said he's been dreaming about it, and the reality is any early success of Optimus is going to be dependent upon this bad boy right here. And I know some of you out there are still frustrated with the progress in robotaxi and all of that, but please just understand the foundation Tesla is building truly is special. This stuff takes time, and it won't lead to results overnight. But there will come a time at some point in the next few years where we sit back and look back at Tesla and barely recognize the company that it is. And that will only be possible because of all of this technical design and decision making and risk taking that Tesla undertook. And Elon was asked what were the best and worst parts of this AI5 tapeout. He said the best was working with a great team of AI hardware and software engineers. It was more fun than going to parties on Saturdays by far. The least awesome was that we had to make several design concessions to move fast, but we were able to finish tapeout 45 days ahead of schedule. AI6 with LPDDR6 memory addresses those design concessions and has many new great ideas. It will deliver a true doubling of performance over AI5 in the same half reticle size using the Samsung 2nm fab in Texas. AI 6.5 will further improve performance using TSMC 2nm in Arizona. Note, both chips have around half of the Trip AI computation accelerators dedicated to SRAM, so effective memory bandwidth is an order of magnitude greater than DRAM bandwidth for any calculations in SRAM cache. Now, not to be that guy, but I'm going to save this explanation in layman's terms for the next episode because there is something else I've been wanting to tie into this very point. So if you're interested, you'll have to stay tuned for that. Alexander, who follows FSD developments closely in Sweden, said that the Swedish Transport Administration restated the EU-wide approval of FSD will only apply to new vehicles produced after the approval. They also say they have not yet received any application from Tesla or the RDW as of yet for national approval in Sweden, which makes sense. That's not expected to happen until early May. And they said that there's really no timeline for when this EU-wide approval will happen. So the oddest thing in there, the Swedish representative is saying that new vehicles Tesla makes with support of that decision can then be registered in all EU countries. At the EU level and in the committee, rules for the approval of new vehicles, not used vehicles, are handled. That is, updating existing vehicles is something that falls under national regulations in each EU country. So if you're a current Tesla owner in one of these EU countries, no need to panic. I'd imagine Tesla will have a process to certify any existing vehicles to send the OTA update when the time comes, but I just wanted to put it out there as something to note and keep in the back of your mind. And Jonas said, I just received an official response from the cabinet in Belgium. Now, all the response actually said was that we are reviewing your message internally and will contact you if more clarification is needed. But I just wanted to make the point that while some countries may drag their feet and wait for a more official EU committee process, some other countries might be a bit more proactive and are looking into things now. Early reviews of 14.3.1 are pretty strong. I would expect this to be the branch that does go wide to the fleet, and it has started going beyond the early access group. Zach said with .1 everything's polished and smoother overall. He noticed improved lane bias and preference changes. Now, I'll believe this one when I see it, but he said stop sign behavior's much improved. It commits and doesn't hesitate. No double stops that he's seen. I tell you what, if that's my experience with 14.3.1, I will be jumping for joy. Because for me, that's still one of the biggest annoyances at this point. But clearly, as Spencer shared, it's not all good. And when you get the spring software update, here's an example of what Grok can do.
Hey Grok, can you remind me to pick up dog food when I get close to home?
Got it. I'll remind you to pick up dog food when you get close to home.
Thanks.
One eternity later.
Don't forget to pick up dog food.
Oh, thanks for the reminder.
You're welcome.
All right, that's pretty cool. And on Tesla's new safety score V3, there is a blog post with more information. I'll have it linked below. Version 3 has a more accurate assessment of your future collision risk based on over 26.5 billion miles of driving. Safety factors are now measured against miles driven without FSD engaged, ensuring your score focuses on your manual driving behavior. But again, miles driven with FSD engaged get a safety score of 100 and are now included in the calculation of the safety score with FSD. The risk levels assigned to the hours for late night driving have been refined based on the most recent data. Availability of safety factors will vary based on your Tesla vehicle's infotainment system and self-driving hardware. So with version 3, your safety factors are only now for manual driving, meaning when you have FSD engaged, you're automatically at a score of 100. And Benny in Arizona shared this screenshot that shows a default safety score of 90 is used to calculate the premium for your first 2 months. So his started at $260 a month, but the expected future premium, if he was to maintain his current driving behavior using FSD often, it would drop the rate down to $180 per month. Now, sadly, this is still not widely available, but certainly a sign that Tesla continues to grow more confident with the FSD driving behavior. And the question we were wondering from yesterday, what about existing policyholders? If you're insured by Tesla Insurance in any state other than California, you will be upgraded to the latest version of the safety score at the time of your policy renewal. And on this page, they do provide a table for each different state and the dates that are important for you. And guys, how about Tesla stock today? Up 7.62% to $391.95. And sure, the NDX was up as well, 1.4%. But typically, we see about a 2x performance from Tesla to the positive or negative relative to the NDX. But today, it was a 5.4x outperformance. But I'm not going to speculate as to why. There could have been some unusual options activity. The volume was much higher than usual, about 78% above the average over the past 30 days. And as I mentioned earlier, maybe the market did need some reassurance that Tesla can solve unsupervised with AI4, but as I always say, it's usually not just one factor. But I think these are the times when the hype builders are supposed to say things like, hey guys, somebody knows something. Which sure, I guess is possible, but look, only time will tell. So for now, just enjoy it for what it is. And don't forget, check out Surfshark linked below for anybody interested. Seriously, can't thank you all enough for supporting the channel in that way. Hope you all have a wonderful day, and a huge thank you to all of my Patreon supporters.